Let's bring in Dane Bradshaw, who is absolutely fantastic on the television and other places, breaking down the Vols and the SEC. Caleb, if you can help bring him in, I would appreciate it. I'm having a little bit of trouble. Oh, there he is. I got him. All right. So Dane joins us now. We greatly appreciate that. We think. Dane, can you hear us okay?
Yes, sir. I can hear you guys. A little background noise, but as long as you got me, I got you.
I got you, babe, Cher once said. All right, here, Dane. Let's get rolling. First of all, thank you for the time. We certainly appreciate that. You know, you're one of my favorites. Even though you like the Eagles, I do not hold that against you.
Well, yeah, I got some bragging rights on you, but I'll take the high road. So
You got a lot. I root for the worst, the Dallas Cowboys, the worst franchise in the NFL. You root for probably one of the top two. The Eagles are turned in the incredibly run organization. So kudos to you.
Well, we deserve it. Classy fan base, as you know.
Okay. Yeah, Michael Irvin couldn't move, and you guys are cheering, but that's fine. All right, Dane. This Tennessee basketball team, how different are they when Darlene Stone-Dubar is on as he was against Texas?
Yeah, he's got the ability to just get them out of some scoring slumps at times, and he's got big, broad shoulders. It's hard to figure out, Rick Barnes' offense and getting to that flow and his demands on defense. But he's starting to get it. So he's had a little bit of a different growth process. But I don't think they win at Illinois without him. They don't win at Texas without him. I mean, the timeliness of his threes have been huge.
And I know that he's had some personal issues. I don't want to get into that. That's his business. But do you feel like he's at a point in his life from people you talk to where he's able just to focus on basketball?
Yeah, I hadn't asked those questions in the locker room or in the film room type thing. All I know is they say, look, he's got a ton of potential, and once he starts to figure it out, he's going to be trouble. And I think they need that because of all the pressure that's going to be on Chaz Lanier. And I know the comparisons to Dalton Connect have been there, but as you guys know, they're two different types of players. And Dalton Connect, I mean, he just had he would take it to another level, especially on the road. I mean, he just embraced those moments and demanded the ball, and just had a little bit more of that mindset that they're trying to get out of Chaz Lanier. And that's going to be hard to change. Chaz Lanier's a very unselfish star. And I think having an additional scorer like Dubar is going to be extremely beneficial for him. But, and some of that could just be getting the lid off the rim. And, there was times I go back to two totally different players, but you just felt like when Tennessee teams would get in scoring slumps. I remember back in the day, it would be Lamonte Turner, kind of a six man, would come off the bench. It was like, man, when they needed a three, he just made big ones. And I don't know that Dubar is going to be in at the end of every game necessarily, but it just past couple times they've been on the road with their back against the wall, he's been unafraid to take those shots and not passive. And that's really something you can't teach. You either got it or you don't, and he seems to have it.
Dane, Caleb Calhoun here. You and I have a bit of a history, by the way. I was a freshman at Ridgeway when you were playing at White Station, and I was at that game where they turned the lights out on you guys about like 5 times every time y'all got on a run. I don't know if you remember that.
Oh, man, yeah, that I do. I remember that, and we yeah, that was one of our 10 losses over 4 years. So I remember those losses well. There weren't many of them, but that was one of them.
Yeah.
Wait. What did they do again? Did they
every time White Station would go on a run, the Ridgeway gym would flip the lights off and like it calls it they'd have to do a timeout because the lights would go out. There was a quote unquote power failure.
It happened to happen twice. The timing of it, it was funny how it never happened after Ridgeway made a three.
Yeah.
It's so funny. We used to the more athletic schools, because we were just a bunch of rural kids, we would turn up the thermostat by about 8 degrees when the athletic teams would come in. That was our move, but we never turned the lights on.
Hey, it's home court advantage. I get it. That's a little bit different strategy, but we're good to talk to another Memphian, Caleb.
Thanks, Dane. Yeah. So I wanted to ask you a little bit about we talk about Darlene Stone-Dubar, Chaz Lanier, and all these guys. One of the things that kind of concerns me about Chaz Lanier, and I want to know your thoughts, is, I mean, we know that Rick Barnes benched him over the weekend because he didn't take a shot that was called for him. We know he's an elite scorer. Does he make you nervous that he doesn't necessarily have an assassin's mentality that's kind of needed for a scorer to say, give me the ball and everybody get out of the way if we need a bucket?
There's a little bit of that. And I tell you what, though, um, on the flip side, because I thought the best play in the game late was the Kai Ziegler made a driving layup with about, there was 4 seconds on the shot clock. He had 2 guys on him. Most people would settle for 3 and hoist it up, but he got all the way to the rim. But like, if you rewind it a second or two before that, Chaz Lanier has the ball in his hands. And to your point, that's one where I'd like him to keep the ball in his hands and be like, hey, this is a big possession. I'm not going to pass this up. I'm going to take a contested 3. But because he was unselfish and just said, I don't have it, he gives it to Ziegler, and they end up getting a layup at the end of the shot clock. So on one hand, that's a positive that he didn't settle and just say, you know what, it's got to be me only. But I think, and even in the preseason, assistant coach Rod Clark raved about Chaz Lanier, and he said, look, I don't even think he knows how good he can be. And so there is a little bit of that. I mean, he was really good at North Florida last year, but prior to that, it's been what 4 years, I guess, of averaging about 4 points a game. So it's a little bit of a new position for them, but they'll get there. And look, it's just January, and coach is going to continue to improve these guys. I got a hard time believing that by March we're still going to be talking about Chaz Lanier not coming harder off those screens, looking to shoot. I think this is a temporary problem and part of his individual growth.
Okay, not to be total Debbie Downer on it, but going into the post a little bit with what about people like Igor and Felix Opera? So one of the things I noticed that was a bit of a difference this year, we know what Felix can do as an athlete and a scrapper under the basket, and we know Igor is a solid scorer. But does Igor strike you as someone who's able to get positioning and leverage under the basket to score? I know he can stretch the court, but it seemed like Florida just knocked him off the baseline every time last week.
Yeah, that's usually. I mean, posting him up against Florida's bigs probably isn't going to be a play call, but in those situations, you can quote unquote post him at the elbow and let him take a taller big off the dribble. That's where he creates some mismatch problems, and he just finds a way to impact winning. I'm a fan of his. I think the fact that Dubar was shooting it so well last game had something to do with him not producing as much. But there I remember I called the MTSU game, and I asked their coach, like, hey, Milicic is struggling from 3. Do you still allow him to stretch the court and honor it? And they go, oh yeah, well, we're definitely going to get out on him because we've seen him at Charlotte. He shot it extremely well against us there. It's only a matter of time. So he's got the respect of the opponent, so that helps stretch the court. He rebounds like crazy. And yeah, if you put a smaller guy on him, then yeah, you can post him up a little bit down low. If you put a bigger guy on him, then yeah, it's probably best for him to kind of get it 10 to 15 feet away from the basket to try to take him off the bounce some. So just got to use that Swiss Army knife to your advantage.
That aggressiveness. I want to go back to Chaz here momentarily. The show represented by Banks and Jones, Tennessee's trial attorney, banksandjones.com. We broadcast live from the Ted Russell Ford Lincoln Studios. I want to go back to Chaz and his approach to the game. Is something like that, hey, I'm going to be a scorer, I'm going to take the ball and take over the game. Is that just innate, or can you learn that? And I'm going to use a little bit of a comparison. When I covered the Vincent Yarbrough teams, I know they always wanted him to be a little bit more aggressive, but it wasn't his nature. It's still a very good player, but it just wasn't his nature to be that kind of takeover guy. So is that innate, or is that something you can learn?
Yeah, that's a very interesting comp. You're dating yourself, but at the same time, I think a fair. I think Vincent was probably a little bit more laid back, and this offense is so much more predicated on constant movement that I think it's a little bit of Chaz Lanier. He's got to get some of that out of himself. But then there's other parts of it where it's going to be forced on them some through Coach Barnes, because they're calling for him, and the off is again predicated on him coming off these screens. And I mentioned it on the broad. Too. We there?
Yeah, you broke up a little bit. Go ahead. Can you repeat that, Dane?
Okay. Yeah, they were showing him clips of Santiago Vescovi and said, "Hey, look how hard he runs and how hard he cuts." And then we knew Vescovi had one of the best shot fakes in the league. Come off there, shot fake. They're going to have to jump at you. If they don't, let it fly. And so again, I think those things, despite him maybe not showing that natural killer instinct, it might not be a 10 out of 10 by the year, but I think it could be an 8 to a 9, which should be good enough.
I like it. Dane, are you going to be Mike Keith's partner as the color commentator on the Vol Network? Because you got my vote.
Oh, what a great day for Vol Network, and so fun to see the throwback images of Bob and Mike Keith, and yesteryear versus now. It's just what an awesome deal, and a huge get for Danny White in the program. So excited for everybody, and a tip of the hat to Bob Kessling, of course. There'll be more celebration of his phenomenal career. He's helped a lot of people out, including myself.
Did you hear Dane not answer the question at all? Well, if you want
He didn't.
If you want it, Dane, I hope you get it. I hope nothing but the best for you.
No, I'm plenty busy where I am now, so I'm good.
All right, buddy, I got you. Have a blessed day. Thanks for taking the time. We greatly appreciate it.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Dane. I appreciate that.